I realized something. I realized that I spent the last few videos that I've done on the Ed Piskor stuff and the aftermath and fallout. I've focused on the women that were involved, whether it's Alex DeCampi's sexist, destructive, vile words, or Molly Dwyer's accusatory, inflammatory statements, or Molly Wright's own fabrication of events that led to Piskor's death. I seem to have focused a lot on the women, but I haven't really taken an opportunity or a chance to sit down and talk about the men that were involved. Because there were men named in Piskor's list of people that he accused of murdering him. His words, not mine. So, another day on Twitter, another quiet day on Twitter, quiet, where people in the industry are now having to answer for the death of Ed Piskor at the hands or at the words of their peers. Here's an interesting tweet here by Scott Snyder when he says, I think sometimes there's a misconception that if you're affiliated with either Marvel or DC, you're rooting for the other company to fail, but the truth is exactly the opposite. Not only are most of us good friends, but we all want industry. They're both big two. He's a writer, by the way, I think. Oh, that was painful reading that tweet. That was very painful. But yeah, no, people on Twitter are not letting up. They're reminding these cancel pigs that your hands are soaked with blood. They're soaked with the blood of a man who loved comics and was sent to the gulags because you chose him to be targeted, isolated, and killed. Yeah, the comic industry is not good, and people are starting to call it out. I say started, but they've been doing it for years. But I think now more than ever, the eyes are on it, and now more than ever, these industry people are doing their hardest to sweep this Ed Piskor stuff under the rug. And if you're like me and you're upset by what these people did to Ed Piskor, well, um, don't let up. Absolutely do not let up. Just keep reminding them. They are, everyone is accountable as they should be. And I think more eyes need to be put on someone like a Ramon Villalobos. This is from 2017, actually. This is a tweet from 2017. He's every bit the heavyweight, literally the heavyweight. Talk about the elephant in the room. Ramon Villalobos, like me, is a Hispanic, but he's probably a Latin X because I'm sure he is. And this is a tweet in 2017 in which he says Rockstar Games is the white devil. People only play those games to disrespect women, and reinforce the patriarchy. I don't know of any man with half a measure of testosterone that has an issue with the patriarchy. It doesn't shock me that this heavyset fraud has a problem with the patriarchy. I'm pretty sure that the one thing he's lacked in his life was a strict father that kept him fit and not gain weight and balloon up like a blimp. But he continues his words of wisdom here about the invisible majority. It's all good, though. When whites are locked up in female camps, they'll regret this. Villalobos 2020. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it seems a little racist, don't you think? You have a guy who is actively, not actively, well, he probably still is, but this is from like 7 years ago where he is going after a demographic that buys games and comics, and he's out on Twitter insulting you based on your skin color. There's a word for that. It's called racism. It wouldn't be a stretch to call Ramon Villalobos a racist, would it? Well, let's read on. My bro has on Supergirl. They cast that basic white dude from Glee to go with the basic white girl from Glee. Basic whites are ecstatic. ATM. Basic whites are ecstatic, he says. Why is that a bad thing? I don't know. Oh, but he doesn't stop. He continues on. If Supergirl casts a new puck from that same era of Glee, I'm thinking the Supergirl producers are sending subliminals to Ryan Murphy. Tamara Bonvillain, replying to the legendary Pad Surge, recognizing that there are racial and gender sexuality dividing lines on issues isn't the same as saying all one group are a monolith. And then Ramon says, that being said, white men are the worst. A Kiwi Forums post from 2018, October 24th, reminds us that Villalobos doesn't like white people. Getting to hear this is some account called Kurt or Franklin or Octave. Getting to hear Ramon Villalobos say things like, "Oh, white people should be incarcerated in person," was honestly thrilling. That's just most days for white people. White people are culturally bereft. He has a hard on for white people. Edge keeps making this racial. See? White people always do that shit, guys. How many times do I have to tell you how ignorant white people are? White people are ignorant. By the way, I make comics. Do you want to buy my comics even though I think you're fucking ignorant and bereft? Buy my comic. Oh, you want? Well, you're racist. Do you see how that works? You see how that works, right? He gives himself the pass to be racist, but he hides under the victim card, so that way when you hold him accountable by not opening your wallet, it's, oh, you guys are the racist ones. You're the ignorant ones. White people. White people. Anyway, he says, this is him backpedaling. I'm just kidding. I love white people and their white blood. Some of my absolute dearest friends are white. I totally am not advocating putting all white people into FEMA camps. And of course, I guess enough backlash in 2018, with tweets going as far back as 2016, he had to respond and say, there has been a vicious smear campaign against me, falsely claiming I am a racist. Well, you did say what you said. It's not false. You did say those negative things about white people. So I don't see how it's false. They're your words. They say I hate white people, but all my Caucasian friends, but my friends are black. My black friend Elgin. This is I can say all bad things about black people, but I can't because I got a black friend named Elgin. He follows me around. He's my black friend. He's doing the inverse of that. All my Caucasian friends and family know this isn't true. If you're one of those people, feel free to respond to how I've touched your life in some way. This isn't being a little passive aggressive. This is his way of saying, "Oh, show me on the doll, the Barbie doll, where I touched you." Curious thing, when I was searching for Ramon Villalobos to see what hijinks he's been involved with, aside from casting a lot of derogatory racism at white people, I noticed that there was a lot of threads on the 4chan, so I clicked on some of them and, oh, wait. Nothing found on Ramon Villalobos in 4chan. That must have been a mistake. That's a mistake. There has to be more. Let's see. Let's check this out. What Ramon Villalobos' favorite work here? So, oh, that's gone too. Okay. Well, let's go back here. Let's try. Let's try this link here on 4chan about Ed Piskor here, and oh, that's also gone. Huh. Interesting. And oh yeah, I forgot. So Ramon Villalobos was the artist for the Bordertown comic by Eric Esquivel. Interesting. And remember the Eric Esquivel controversy. Eric Esquivel is another name in comics that was accused of sexual harassment. And it's funny that those accusations came out right as he was about to launch what seemed to be a very heavily hyped book in Bordertown, which I forgot the details of Bordertown. I remember the story when it came out in 2018 and the controversy that surrounded Eric Esquivel and so forth. I don't remember what the story was about. I guess it was seen through the Latinx eyes of Esquivel. Latinx, what a stupid term. Boy, what a stupid term Latinx is. Nobody who's in the Hispanic community, who lives in that community in any kind of organic fashion, uses that stupid term. It's a really stupid term, Latinx. And it's interesting the way he draws women. He draws them very masculine. They don't lack any. They lack curves. Their breasts looks like a male bodybuilder's pecs. They have broad shoulders. They're not really feminine looking. There's something to be said about men who hate the patriarchy and look at women in a sense of very masculine form. I'm sure there's something for that, but I'm not a psychiatrist. My diagnoses are not official. They're not authoritative. I'll just use a word I think we can all agree on. It's weird. It's very weird. Considering that every single time that somebody in comics is mentioned as being a sex pest and they're caught in the crossfires of cancel culture and the whole spiel, the whole weaponizing of DMs and all that stuff. It's funny how he always seems to be out in the front condemning these evil acts and saying we must be better men, we must do better, we must protect our women in comics. If you're a woman in the industry, in any industry, and you want protection, marry a man, get a husband. That's what husbands do. They protect their wives. Men have no authority, not authority. Men have no obligation to protect a woman if she ain't his wife. And if she's not under his covering or under his protection. Women wanted equality. You got equality. You want independence, you got independence. When men are not obligated to protect women. I mean, I'm not to say that you shouldn't lend a hand if they need it or something, but we're not obligated to. We're only obligated to protect and defend our wives. That's what marriage is for. But it seems like Ramon likes to white knight for a lot of these women. And it makes you wonder what skeletons he may have in his closet. And I think a lot will come out soon about that. But hey, just so you know, if you're white, Ramon Villalobos loves you. He doesn't believe you should be incarcerated at all. Totally not a bully to Ed Piskor. You know, it makes you wonder, like if Villalobos' hatred for Piskor was because he was white. It's not crazy to assume that his hatred of Ed Piskor is because he was a white guy in comics, doing far better than he ever was. Think about that. Piskor was a successful comic book creator, had a successful YouTube career, was beloved by a lot of comic book fans who were looking to his channel, Cartoonist Kayfabe, for a lot of history on comics, a lot of appreciation for the medium and the art. And what was Ramon Villalobos doing? He wasn't doing jack shit. So it makes you wonder if his hatred for Piskor was racially motivated. I mean, we have the tweets to prove that he definitely has a thing against white people, so it's not out of the realm of possibility to assume that his disdain for Piskor was racially motivated. But more people are catching on now. They're starting to point out the hypocrisy in the racist views of Ramon Villalobos. I can call him a racist, right? Is it okay that I call him a racist? He's absolutely stupid. We know that for a fact. We can verify that. But let's assume that his comments about white people are racially motivated. Let's assume that. I couldn't find the tweets of Villalobos harassing and bullying Ed Piskor. So just so that we're keeping our hands clean, I found these from your boy Zach's video on Villalobos. So check it out when you get a chance. But I'm showing these. These are from his video. He did a great job archiving a lot of these. So this is Villalobos days after the initial accusations on Ed Piskor, in which he says, Ed has always been kind of a coward, but I know when the Eric stuff went to DC, okay, Eric being Eric Esquivel, I'd wait for an official statement. After a few days, I said I couldn't wait. Jim really needlessly making himself complicit for a guy who threw him under the bus over that Red Room cover. That's right. There was that controversy about the Red Room cover that Ed was doing for. It was like a variant cover that he was doing for it, and he got into trouble. It was you can see here in the tweet that he was low-key pressuring Jim Rugg to throw his friend under the bus. And that you're gonna see that's a very, and again, I'm taking these from your boy Zach's video because I can't find these tweets where Lobos did lock his Twitter. And just a reminder of the type of stuff that Ramon Villalobos was saying prior to Piskor's untimely passing. Here he is quote tweeting the now deleted that's Molly Wright's former Twitter account. He quote tweets her. He says, Jesus Christ, Ed is a fucking creep. Glad the victims of his behavior feel safe enough to come forward about this, despite some of the harassment I've already seen Ed Piskor's audience has already sent their way. He continues on, come for Ed Piskor explaining clout chasing, stay for Ed Piskor bragging about how he antagonized DMC by making him a racial caricature in a hip-hop encyclopedia. Mind you, Ramon is anti-white, so seeing a successful white man in Ed Piskor getting the kind of clout from the hip-hop, aka black community, probably didn't sit well with Latinx Ramon Villalobos. So there definitely was a trail of harassment by Villalobos towards Ed, dunking on the guy quite often. First with the Red Room variant cover, and then the false allegations by the girls Molly Dwyer and Molly Wright. like you can see genuine disdain for the guy, and I would propose that the disdain was largely racial on Villalobos's part. Here's a this is a Blue Sky. This is Evan Dorkin, another one of the guys that was named by Ed Piskor in his letter. Ramon passive aggressively in repulsing this is echoing the sentiments about not eliciting bad behavior, death threats, or violence. And yet, this guy was a complicit in bullying Ed Piskor to violence. Evan Dorkin says the women that came forward did nothing wrong. They did nothing wrong except slander the guy and lie about what he did. So, yeah, I would argue that they did something wrong. They did a lot of things wrong. And that's why they're in hiding, because the shame of what they did follows them, and they're not being held accountable for putting some malicious words against a man who did nothing wrong. And the funny thing is that Evan Dorkin is trying to point the fingers at the ones that are pointing them at him, even though he was named in the Ed Piskor letter. It's funny because, yeah, a lot of people did dunk on Ed. Those same people on that list that was written by Ed himself are deflecting by saying, "Oh, but they dunked on him too. They used the P word. They threw the P word out there." And yeah, a lot of people irresponsibly went at Ed prior to his passing and were throwing those words out there, despite no evidence of on the contrary. Well, despite evidence of the contrary, I should say. And it was irresponsible, and that led to the dark stain in comics as a result. So there's definitely a trail on this guy, and I think more will come out soon. I'm not wishing the same thing happened to him that happened to Ed, because you shouldn't weaponize that type of behavior of using claims of sexual assault to cancel a man and to slander a man's name. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, because if you do, it's just going to expand, it's going to be widespread, and then both sides are going to weaponize it. So, no, I wouldn't wish that upon Ramon at all. But if he has any skeletons in the closet, I would wish for the light to shine on that, so we can see exactly the kind of dark heart he had that Ed was quick to point out in his letter, since Ed did name Ramon Villalobos as one of his murderers. And again, I would posit that the disdain that Ramon had for Ed was racially motivated, because that success that Ed had, that should have been Ramon's, right? Ramon's success was in Ed's hands instead. Ramon was marginalized. Ramon should have had that access to the rap star that Ed Piskor had. He should have had that growing YouTube channel, or the fans that were buying his books and getting signed copies of his books, or getting photos taken with him. That should have been Ramon's success, but no, he's in the background. He's been in the background, but he did get his wish. Now he is now more or less in the foreground, but not for the right reasons. And again, put pressure on these people. If you don't like what he did, if you don't like his involvement and the way he passive aggressively just threw Ed under the bus and low key slandered his name, the only way to fight back is with your wallets. That's the way you do it. You fight back with your wallets. Don't reward these people. And so someone in my comments were like, "Why do you keep talking about that? Let the comic industry die." I'm like, if we don't talk about it, it's going to repeat itself. These things are going to repeat itself because we don't look at the patterns. We don't see who the bad guys are, and we're just going to just turn a blind eye until it happens to someone else. We have sons. We have brothers. We have our young boys are growing up to be men. And what are they facing? What kind of world are they facing? Where they're being told that patriarchy is a bad thing. Hey, you need the patriarchy for societies to survive. If you're a man that hates the patriarchy, that you're a man that with skeletons in your closet, or you're a man that is not trustworthy. I'll say it to you like that. Something not trustworthy about a man with such a disdain for the patriarchy and as much of a disdain for white people. Very troubled individual, I would say. Not a man whose comics I would read, that's for certain. But he's not the only one of his kind in the comic industry. There are a lot of men like him that think that way. Anti-male, anti-white, very racist, very bigoted. And, I suspect there's reasons why, but I haven't seen any of that put out in the front, so I'm not going to lay it here, but Like I said, I think someday the light will shine on him, and we're going to see what kind of skeletons he has in the closet. And then, like I said, I don't wish him the same fate that happened upon Ed. I'm just one of those guys that I believe in redemption. I believe you can turn it around. I believe people should be afforded a second chance if they ask for it and uh, live by it. But that remains to be seen if that will happen with him. I do know that he's doubled down and he's had a tough month. He has thick skin. He's he has weathered the storm. He's a soldier. He's a warrior. So we are going. So I don't know what else to say about this, but you guys tell me what you think. Leave your thoughts in the comments. I enjoyed your comments in the last video about the comic industry and whether or not it died with Ed Piskor. I enjoyed your comments there. So feel free to leave yours there. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you think that it's time we start ostracizing these people that hate you, that write against you, that clearly don't respect you, and talk down about you, and talk down to you. Maybe it's time you start hitting them where it hurts the most, in the wallets, if it hasn't already. Because the comic industry is dying. Sales are down worse now than ever. In some part because of Ramon Villalobos. He had a hand in that. So just keep looking into the indies right now, or look at some of the good work that's being done by Image Comics with their Transformers line, for example, or just go back and look at some of the classics, some of the hardcover or paperback classics, omnibuses. There's a lot of good stuff out there from the past that you can look back and read and go back in time to when masculinity was celebrated, the patriarchy was celebrated, women were women, the good guys did good guy things, the bad guys were held accountable. And there was no daddy issues, there was no trauma, there was none of that. It was just good guys versus bad guys, with a story of morality thrown in there, and the good guy gets the girl at the end. Thank you for watching, and we'll talk soon. Take care.